All right. So today, you all have, many of you, I think everybody who's on the call here on the class today have seen my pictures of fascia, some of the lines. This is a little bit different. They're showing kind of where the groups of fascia that are really thick are in your body. You might even be able to see my cursor here. It's interesting how much on the scalp, right, is fascia. And fascia goes through all the muscles and connects us all together. But this is showing kind of big, strong groups of fascia, I guess, where there's not a lot of muscle. It really is that connective tissue. So they're showing that outer line of the body, how it comes into the knee, around the knees, around the heels, around the hands, you know, when we've done our hand work, and then in the head area. So I just wanted to review that a little bit about what fascia's purpose is, and that's to keep us connected, and how our muscles are conditioned really can help or hinder, right? If what movements are possible. So a little bit about that, and but we're going to continue on, and I'm going to take this off here now, and we'll go to where I'm at. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah. Okay, so I thought what I'd like to start with is just gonna use my chair, but if you have somewhere to sit, just sitting on your mat, that's fine too. I wanted to just wake up the bottoms of my feet. So there is some fascia on the bottom of the feet. We've heard of plantar fasciitis. So it can be nice to just give your feet a good old wake up. We're not going to spend a lot of time because we're going to be doing some more. I want to get to the rest of our practice, but I'm just going to take one leg over and find my foot. And if you could concentrate on one area, let's concentrate between the ball of the foot and the heel. And let's see if we can wake that part up. Let's see if we can wake that part up. Now you can do a whole foot kind of squeeze to start, like greeting your whole foot, getting those toes. And sometimes it'll take a little bit longer, right? And do the whole ball of the foot, the toes. We could do a whole reflexology session, but we don't have time because that's not what we're signed up for this morning. So now that I woke that up, I'm gonna take my thumbs and I'm just gonna start to, either you can kind of walk your thumbs along the inside, or you could smooth it out toward the ball of the foot, or whatever direction you want, and just start to wake that up a little bit. And again, I'm gonna kind of concentrate in that middle of my foot area today, but I'm gonna make sure I get this inside line, what you might call your arch, and I'm gonna make sure I get this outside line too, that goes up kind of toward the pinky toe. And just give that a little bit more wake up. Go ahead and exhale. Yeah. And then let's come up to our feet and just see, how does that feel, right and left, or whatever, you know, each side there. How does that feel? So, feel different, a little different on each side. So even that little bit can be really nice. So let's do the other side. And just a little reminder, if you can turn off your video for class, that'd be most desired. So appreciate that, thank you. So I'm gonna wake this one up. I'm gonna squeeze the foot, just give it some nice palm, fingers, the whole of my foot getting attention, my heel getting some nice big squeezes. Even if you only did this, it's really nice to start your morning, giving yourself just a little TLC. And then let's concentrate again on that middle part of the foot. And I'm gonna use my thumbs again. And I'm either going to kind of walk them or smooth, you know, like kind of press in and move upward, sliding. There we go, got the word. Make sure you get the inner line, the middle, and that outer line. And you might find there's a little tenderness places, and you're welcome to just be gentle there. You're welcome to stay kind of pressing on it a little bit. Yeah, so just want to greet my feet, find myself, come on up to the feet again, on to your standing position, and just see how that feels. I feel like my cameras are a little bit, no, it's not, it should be okay. All right, there. All right, so I'm gonna move my chair out of the way, or just maybe have it for balance, the back of the chair if I need it. And then let's take our feet just, I'm gonna step on my mat here, just a little bit apart. And maybe I'm gonna move that front foot out just a little bit. And we're gonna do this a little bit differently. Many of you have done psoas wake up with me. And this one's just gonna be a little bit different because I'm actually let this front leg be a little straighter, but I'm gonna press off back foot and just see how this feels today to move that back foot up and down, and be gentle again with the ball of the foot toe area. I'm not going up so far that I really crank on my toe joint. That would be a little more that, but really feel the toe and the ball of the foot there a little bit as I press up. Good. And then I'm going to take this same, I'm going to take my weight forward and then see if I can step back a little bit more. So now heel is a little bit harder to reach the floor. That's okay. And I'm going to let there be a little more bend in this front knee. And we're going to just do a bend in the front knee and a straighten. And this back leg just gets to go along for the ride. So the back foot can come up and down. And my front knee bends, but back leg is staying straight. So kind of check out to see if you haven't done this. We're kind of switching up, you know, what we've done for psoas walk before. So a little different, a little wider stance. And last one. I'm just going to pause there and then step forward and see how that feels. I know for me, I was getting a little bit of work in the front of the leg here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about that action. So let's turn to the other side and take that step. So little step forward when to start here. Feet aren't that far apart, but for balance sake, I either have the chair or maybe that foot moves out just a little bit to keep me nice and steady. And so we started pressing off, I gotta switch feet, pressing off and kind of coming onto this front leg. I mean, I'm not locking my knee, but I'm also not really bending. So pressing off, coming forward, pressing off, coming forward, getting some nice wake up in the back foot. Just this weight transfer to really feel my feet. Get into the feet a little bit in that grounding sense, and that sense that the feet are down there and they really have contact with the floor. And the next time you're forward, pause there. And I'm just gonna take my hands to my waist and see if I can step back a little more. So again, chair is kind of nice there as we get further back, a little more balance needed. And now back leg straight, front knee bending and coming up, bending and coming up. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Little bend in the knee, ankle back there can move, but I'm gonna keep my knee straight. So I get this different movement. That whole back line, calf, heel, right, can get a little bit of attention maybe for you. Maybe you feel that on that back of the leg. And the front of the leg, of course, gets quadricep, knees, all that stuff. And then pausing here, just kind of checking it out, reaching through that back heel and straightening up. And then stepping forward. Good. So what I wanted to point out was, if we are going to talk about the hip here today a little more, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, that when we bring our knee up, as we would to sit in the chair, you're bringing your knee up, actually bringing your seat down, right? This is flexion of that hip. You're bending the knee to come up, that's flexion. If I take my leg back here like we just did, now I'm taking this into an extended position in my hip joint. That femur bone is reaching back, and my pelvis eventually has to tip in order to let me take that leg back more. So we can flex a lot more than we can extend. We're just going to be using those definitions, flexing at the hip, which we can do really easily if we bend our knee. But now if you straightened your leg out, how easy is that? Oh, I'm already like tipping back in order to make it happen, right? So we'll just be exploring that a little bit more today, flexing and extending in the hip. All right, so coming to your feet here. And then bringing the heels together, Pilates B. I know my window is so bright here today. I haven't figured out how to do that. I'm gonna have to bring something to cover it up a little bit. I'm gonna move away just over here. Still playing with lighting. Still playing with lighting. Let's see, we'll just turn the camera and get a little more this way. Thank you, appreciate it. I'm noticing it too, and I just need to kind of add something else here today. Okay, better, worse? All right, I'm even gonna, like, where'd she go? Okay, so heels together, spreading the ball, the foot apart and the toes apart, and then bending the knees here. Good, and bending the knees. Nice. And then let's pause here in the standing and let's lift one heel up and back down. One heel lifts and back down. Good. All right, so I'm getting that nice. As you come up this time, pause a little bit. And as you bring the heel down, reach the heel, kind of like you're lengthening the heel back as well. So reaching it down, taking a little more time to really work muscles in that foot. And then one more time on this side. So I'm lifting it. And as I come down, can I reach it back, kind of resist just going straight down, right? And reach it back, reach it back. Good. And then wiggling the toes. And then let's bend the knees and lift the heels and straighten up and come back down. Bend the knees, lift the heels, straighten and come back down. Bend and lift and straighten and down. One more like this, bend and lift and straighten and come back down. Good. And then coming to just kind of starting to soften the knees here, doing a little bounce. The heels are down. Heels are down, a little bounce here. And you can let this be kind of as relaxed as you want to in your space, right? I can't see you for the most part unless you have your video on. So just go ahead and bounce, and it can be a slow bounce, or it can be faster. You can let it get faster as it feels more comfortable. So we'll kind of see if we can shake up a little bit in the body. Lymph, this is also good, right? It's not really high impact, very low impact still, but we're adding a little bit more demand for the bones, right? Osteoporosis, osteopenia, let's see if we can treat that a little bit with a bounce. And then coming to straight. And got my heart rate up just a little bit. Let's come up with the heels. We haven't done the second part of the footwork. So heels together, lifting up, bend the knees, reach the heels down and straighten. Come up, bend the knees, reach the heels down and straighten. Come up, bend the knees, reach the heels down and straighten. Come up, bend the knees, reach the heels down, straighten. Let's do one more. Up, bend, heels down, and straighten up. Good. Good. So now trying that bouncing again. Heels can be down, or if you want, they could be just slightly lifted, heels together. And you could do that bounce there. Or maybe you'll find, no, I like to have the heels down all the way. Little bounce. And we could do a little more movement. And then you could find a little place where it's almost like a pulse, right? Just bounce, bounce, bounce. Nice bouncing. Gets the legs going, doesn't it? Nice blood flow happening, a little more demand, and then straightening up. And let's walk the feet out a little bit. I'm gonna come away from because this window is not very big, but it sure is nice and bright. We'll be working on that. So now one little challenge here, back with our feet heels together, is we could bend our knees and lift our heels up as though we were jumping, and do a jump where we lift the heels. So I'm gonna just go ahead, like I'm gonna jump, come down, jump, come down, jump, but I'm not really letting toes leave the floor. Toes stay, ball of the foot stays. I don't know that I could do it too much faster than this. I could try. And I'm not keeping the heels together as I jump up. They're separating, but then they meet again at the floor. And if you wanted, you could try an actual jump. A nice little froggy jump. You're welcome to it, or you're also welcome to say no, no, or yes. And not too many of those. And feeling very, all of a sudden we've really upped the ante, right? And walk it out. Good. All right, so I'll turn this way. Let's see if I can find some more breath here. Nice deep breath. Thinking of those lower ribs. Full exhale. Another breath. I'm also recovering from that little bit of jumping, so I'm just gonna let it be full breaths, but I'm really forcing it. Not really forcing it. Good. Next breath, let's take that breath in, and then exhale, arms out and up. Good. Let's bring that into a chair position, really high. It doesn't have to be that your hips come down a lot. Breath here. Inhale, coming back up. Exhale, staying here. Inhale, chair. Exhale, staying here. Good. Next, inhale, forward fold. And in this forward fold, kind of taking inventory, taking stock with curiosity. How does your forward fold feel today? Does it feel loose? Is there a catch somewhere in this back line? Maybe
hamstrings or calves, or maybe somewhere in your low back or upper back. Just kind of noticing if there's any place that's kind of, you know, not feeling as loose. And then see if you can come up to a position, you know, coming up to support yourself, maybe on your knees or on your shins where it's a little more comfortable. It's like, this is perfect. I don't get as much grab in my legs or in my head. So just see where that is for you. Take another breath there. And then let's slowly come up again, bringing the arms up, exhaling as you bring the arms up, and inhaling, bringing the arms back down. Good. And then inhaling into the back body, exhaling, arms out and up. Coming into a chair, nice high chair pose. So flexion right here, the lower we bring our seat, the more we flex in that hip joint. You don't need to do more, but that's what we're doing. Good. Kind of check in with your breath. Next time you have an inhale, come forward. And again, come forward to a place that's more comfortable, not where it's the biggest stretchy. We'll get there today. We'll get to an opportunity for more forward folding if you'd like, but let this be more of a check-in. Again. And then I'm just going to roll up. I'm going to use that to roll up. And if rolling doesn't work for you, coming up a little bit straighter. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to take my feet, kind of how we started out today, and move them a little bit further apart. Let's make sure everybody can see my feet. And I want to take one side back. You can decide which side you'd like to do. I'm going to take that foot back. Remember how we started with that not so wide stride and then we step back again? So I'm going to take a pretty wide stride stepping back, and I'm going to lean forward and just rest on this front leg. And just check out this right here. With one leg, you're getting a lot of that flexion, right? We're doing projected lunge. We're asking the torso to fold over the femur. And the back leg, not quite an extension for me. It's probably about neutral, but I get to reach back and it feels like lots of good work in the back of the leg. So if you'd like to up the ante in your projected lunge, you can make sure your heel is off the mat back there, even if it's just barely off the mat. If you'd like to up the ante, you can take your hands away, bring them to heart center. If you'd like to open the chest a little more, you could find the chest opening and the hands coming back, pressing back behind you, just lightly. Nice deep breath. Full exhale, bring the hands back here. I'm just going to lean forward and use that to step forward and stand up. And checking in side to side. I have this really nice feeling in the feet again, especially the one that was holding me, that bent knee position. So let's try the other side, just switching around. I'm going to step back. Let the other foot come forward. I've kind of scooted my toes out a little bit. And I'm going to head right toward the light here with my upper body. Looking toward the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever it is. But I get this nice reach in the back of the leg to start. And again, my heel is off the mat. My mat wants to come up today, but I'm seeing about that balance again. And I could have a chair, hanging onto a chair here as well. Good. So then we had flexion in this front hip where we're bending forward, coming over that. And you can see if there's a way to release that leg downward, or this hip. So the front hip, can it release downward a little more?
Back leg nice and strong. Adding on in difficulty would be to bring the palms together. Adding on in difficulty might be to bring the arms back behind you a little bit, and opens the chest, and yet I'm not thrusting forward there. I'm going to keep the ribs tucked in a little bit. And then bringing the hands back and leaning forward into that hand, into the knee. I can step forward and find my feet. Nice. Let's take the feet a little bit wide. Turning the toes out. Kind of our best flexion practice that we've been doing in the yoga practices and in movement lab here are the sumo practices, right? So knees, ankles, hips get a lot of this movement, this flexion. If we want to think about our hips and what gives them freedom, it's strength. So when we have that strength, the belly, the glutes, the medius glutes on the side body, the hips can move, right? We can grab on too tightly, but most of the time when we're grabbing on too tightly, that means something's a little weak. So when we're doing these strength practices, this class sprinkles them in, Sunday's class kind of fine tunes a lot of strength stuff. We're seeing if we can gather in all the pieces so that our joints can work smoothly. So a little squatting here. No extra charge, we get to work the pelvic floor. Come down and pause here. Nice deep breaths. Or not, maybe your heart rate's up. Let your breath do what it needs to do. Good. I'm just holding, just seeing how I can hold and what wants to kind of grip in, and can I allow the big muscles, the hamstrings and the quads to do their work, a little bit of tone in my belly, pressing down to come up. Good. Heart rate got up a little bit. I'm going to walk the feet underneath me. Now I was reminded in this last time that we were in this pose, I'm going to go back to my first side of another thing that we've done before. And so I'm going to take my position here in projected lunge, get my hands here at my knee. And this might be one where it's nice to have the back of the chair, the wall. And then I'm going to see, can I come up a little bit? And can I shift weight, tap that foot forward and take it back? And if we get 3 to 5 of these, maybe you're interested in more. Lots of great work on that front leg, isn't it? Tap forward. And if you don't tap all the way up, that's fine too. If you get a little bit of movement back here, that works too. Last 2 and last 1. And then stepping forward, walking it out as you go to your other side, shaking it out, step back. I've been doing lots of workouts, so you may feel a lot fresher than I am. Today, this is like, oh, I have, not as maybe much endurance as I normally do. So I'm gonna lean forward and then tap, or maybe we just haven't done this in a while. Tap. And I could tap anywhere here, right? Leaning forward, just like we started with straight legs. We were leaning forward, transferring the weight, and then a big step. See if you can bring it all the way up. Last 1 or 2, your choice. Good. And then stepping the feet around, shaking it out. Inhaling ribs, exhaling arms out and up. Inhaling forward or letting the breath do what it wants to do. Inhale here. And then exhale, bringing the hands to the knees.
Good, and then the next step, let's bring the hands down and walk the feet back and find a little downward dog movement here. Balls in the feet, knees get lots of bend to start, and then connecting into the hands. Pressing back. Exhaling, letting the breath do what it wants to do, maybe not controlling the breath. And then bringing the knees down. Let's find a little rounded position, whether that's child's pose or cat pose. So as we bend the knees here, if you came back into child's pose, you did a lot of flexion in the hips. And again, as you come up here, that's pretty easy, or a lot easier when we have our knees bent, right? To do a lot more flexion in the hips. So toward the end, we'll talk a little bit more about what happens when the legs are straight. So let's come onto your seat. And let's come onto the back here. You're just observing the breath here, the body, anywhere that draws your attention to it. For me, there's a little attention being drawn to my left collarbone, to the space kind of in the chest over there, but it could be somewhere else for you. And then let's take right knee over the right hip, left knee over the left hip. Already started with flexion in the hip crease here. And we're going to then drop away to a lesser extension or a lesser flexion and switch. So balancing, keeping everything nice and steady, tapping each heel down. On Sunday, we'll talk about moving from the center of the body in our strength practices. How we can steady the center to support the limbs. Tapping each heel. Tapping each heel. This right here is some of the best hip stuff you could do. Kind of checking out, how does that feel? Are there little clicks and things like that? There are for me. And then when I do just a little rotating for my knees, sometimes it gets smoother. If I bring a little more attention to my belly, it can get a little smoother, and just sometimes it just is what it is. And then this next one, I'm going to bring the feet down. So a little work in my fronts of my legs, but for the most part, felt my belly really helping to support me there. Back feels okay. Back of the pelvis feels okay. Let's interlace the fingers and bring them behind the head. Let the elbows be in a comfortable position, not forced outward and not forced upward. And lift the head up. Let the head be heavy into your hands. Let the neck get a little bit of reach, a little bit of length in it as you bring your chin to your chest just a little bit. That traction can feel awfully nice. And exhaling, coming up. Finding your way up into that mini crunch and pausing here. And here it can be real easy to use the hip flexors. There's all those muscles that actually bend the knee up, right? We can really rely on them here. We can really feel them kind of pulling into our abdomen. Let's see if you can release them. Let them not be part of the picture. One more breath here. Next inhale will slowly come down. Resting the head. Let's walk the feet out. Walk the feet out a little bit. Relax the legs, maybe jiggle the legs a little bit. Hands behind the head. Exhaling, coming up. Noticing again, front of the legs. Do they want to do a lot of work there? You can continue to hold your head. Next breath in. Can you slowly take that breath in and slowly come down, inhaling. And resting the head. Good. Feet step out one more time. Maybe your whole of your foot is not on, maybe the heels are. And let's find our way up one more time. Now, if your heels are on the mat, or even the feet, you could, as though you're gonna pull yourself forward. And instead of engaging front of the legs, engage the backs of the legs. Staying up in your mini crunch, keeping the knees nice and centered. Breath, breath. Inhale, coming back. All right, so let's let the knee be bent, one knee over the hip, and let the other leg stretch out. And let's take this one more step with true, honest to goodness, really good stuff for the hips. And I'm going to have my knee pointed up toward the ceiling, and then I'm going to draw a circle. And that circle is going to start to come inward, and then it's going to drop away from me, and then outward and back toward the straight up toward the ceiling. So we've talked about this one when we've been in studio, that we tend to want to make the circle come in toward our body. If you want a little more challenge, you will keep the knee not coming past 90 really. It's not coming in toward your ribs. And the rest of the pelvis, of course, we're keeping that steady. Keeping the knee not coming in toward the ribs. And then try the other way. To the outside first, down and around. Down and around. Down and around. And then reaching that leg out. Breath. Just noticing what lets go, letting everything, and then let's try the other side. So same thing, I'm gonna start with my circles coming in toward my midline or toward my pubic bone, dropping away, and then to the outside. So these circles aren't really big. It's not about how big they can be, right? It's more about, again, controlling smooth movement in the hip socket. So that ball and socket joint get a nice smooth movement, and all the ligaments, muscles that are attaching in there do they're a smooth thing as well. Go your other direction. If you feel lots of stuff in the belly, you're on the right track. If you feel a lot in the hip flexors, you're on the right track too. One day, someday, we're kind of headed for a little less grabbiness there, but it is what it is. This is not easy stuff, and we'll have kind of some patterns probably in our body. Good, and then stretch that out. Ah, feels nice. In fact, let's bring the feet to the floor and give that a nice stretch out as we press down through the feet and come up into a bridge pose. Now take it easy, take it cautiously and with curiosity into your bridge pose. Think about reaching the knees away from you. And then slowly coming back down.
and letting the hips come down. Maybe your hands make it onto your pelvis or onto the thighs here. Right here, your hips are in flexion, aren't they? A little bit. We're not as though we're sitting in a chair, but the femur is coming up. It's not as though we're standing. And as we come up into our bridge pose, you'll feel your angle of your hips extend. It'll go to a standing position. And for some people, if the hips come up a little bit higher, even into a little bit of extension. So this would probably be considered for most people when they come up into bridge pose, a nice way to extend and lengthen the front of the hip. And this is really nice and safe. I like here because you don't have a lot of ability to overdo it and coming back down. And no extra charge. You're using all these back legs, right? The back of your legs, the hamstrings and the glutes to do that work. So let's come up one more time, extending. And then coming back down. And then I'm going to use my arms, maybe my elbows, to find my way up. I'm going to even let my feet help me out and come up into a seated position. And I'm going to bring those feet to a good spot here. Notice I'm doing a little bit of moving around. And I'm going to come back into that Pilates C. So rounding the spine, holding on front of the legs, because my arms are really long. You could hang on to the back of the legs. Good. Let's take one arm out to the side and back in. One arm out to the side and back in. And then hang on again and let the front of the hips be at ease. Good. And then rolling up. Bringing the hands behind you. So the hands could be, let's see, hands could be fingers behind you or out to the side, whatever is more comfortable for you. And then this is kind of an interesting position for the upper body. I'm going to try to keep my legs in this nice, comfortable, not so working position. I'm going to try to keep my chest open without thrusting forward. I don't want to be too straight in my lower back because I'm going to be asking for other things. So it's kind of this mix of belly is pulling in and chest is open. And then I'm going to take one foot off, stretch it out, and come back. And as I stretch out, my foot turns out a little bit. Reach through the toe, come back. You can slide it along the floor. You can hover along above the floor. So reaching out and come back, reaching out and come back, and then checking in. Can you keep a little more of this work in the belly and out of the hips? Certainly we're using the legs, right? As we extend out, reach through the toes and come back, extend out, turning out a little bit and come back, reaching out and coming back. I don't know about you, but certainly get to feel that a little bit in the belly. That's called part of stomach massage. We just did a little bit. All right, so then let's come up to our feet again. So finding our way up. And let's take the feet, again, hip distance apart or a little bit wider. And we can have our chair back available again, because I'm going to make that big old step back. And I just like to start in a projected place because then I can use my legs. But this one, we're actually going to see, can I find the ball of my foot and can I come upward, straightening the front leg. So nice posture here, right here, this back leg. Do you feel how that's already, at least in your bridge pose, that's already an extension? And if you reach back through your heel, Lots of good stuff going on there as far as lengthening in the front of that hip. Just bring your hands to your waist, or again, hands on a chair, and let that front knee bend just a little bit. Again, with curiosity about how does that feel as the knee comes forward. And then straighten up again. And then bending that knee. And straightening up again. So again, support is really good here. This is definitely enters into that realm of lots of balance in this pose. So finding the feet, really centering into the feet. I'm going to keep that knee bend. Bring the hands to heart center. Continue to reach back through my back heel as though it could meet the floor. And if you'd like, maybe the arms come up. Maybe you reach up through the crown of the head and there's just a teeny tiny back bend. Find a couple breaths here. Maybe coming into the belly or into this front of the leg. Bringing the hands together. Leaning forward and using that same technique we did earlier to step the feet underneath you. Now for many people, that's a big, big stretch, and it feels coming to standing now, there's usually a little bit of imbalance side to side, or just a real awareness of getting that length in that one leg. So enjoy that perception, that ability for you to kind of see, oh, that's interesting what that pose does. And then we'll switch to the other side. So I'm going to take my feet hip distance apart, step back, big old step. See if I can keep my heel up and in line with my body back there. Again, I might just start here, finding my feet, front and back, the balls of the feet, toes. And then can I start to straighten up? And as I bring the torso up, I get that nice length going in the second side. Extending the hip of that side, extension in that hip. Good. I'll get to notice that, reaching back through my heel, letting my heel lower a little bit back there. And then curiosity about bending my knee. Can I do just a little bit to start? Don't have to go straight into as much bend in my knee as I can. And I'm paying attention here. So knee bending, but my attention in the front of the thigh, in the front of the hip. And then maybe a little bit deeper bend, maybe not. Just kind of curious. Coming to that bent position, whatever angle that front knee is. Bringing the hands to heart center if you'd like. Maybe bringing the arms upward. Maybe reaching upward through the crown of the head. Leaning back a little bit, little back bend. Bringing the hands back together. Stepping forward. Inhaling ribs, exhaling arms out and up. Inhaling forward. Exhaling gorilla pose. Inhaling, coming into that forward fold position, kind of checking out, how does that feel now? Is it the same as earlier? As you bring your imagination down, or your attention to the whole of your back body, meaning the bottoms of the feet, the heels, up the backs of the legs, over the seat, to all the muscles in the back, coming all the way up to your head and the back of the neck. And just noticing if it's different.
And then coming to downward dog, stepping your feet back. Bringing the knees down. And coming into child's pose. And then finding your way up to a seated position. And bring the feet out in front of you. I'll sit to the side. Bring the feet out in front. And let's do a little investigation of forward folding here. So if we're seated here, we're in a little bit of, we're not standing, so we're already in a flexion position for the femurs in connection with your torso. So as we want to go forward in the more yoga-like way of coming forward in the hip joint, a lot of things can kind of get in the way. So I'm going to take something out of the way. We said so far, when our knees are bent, we have a lot more ability to flex forward. So go ahead and try that, like bending my knees. How far can your belly come forward over your legs when your knees are bent? With a straighter spine. You have a straighter spine going on. And you can kind of feel that, right? So that is still hip flexion. Feels pretty easy to do. But then if you wanted to check it out, letting your knees get a little straighter, doesn't have to, you don't have to lock your knees, but a lot straighter. And now keep your spine nice and straight and come forward. And just see how that feels different, right? So that's when we start to get that kind of stretchy feeling, probably in the back of your legs. If not, sometimes, you know, we don't want to go to too intense on that stretchy feeling. So sometimes I like that idea of just when I start hitting resistance, I call it and say, okay, enough of the straight spine. And now maybe I start to round. And I start to let my head tip. And taking a few more breaths there. And then slowly coming upward. Good. And then coming onto your back. So just scoot forward. Or if you'd like to stay seated, you're welcome to get in a meditation position. Coming onto your back is option B or C or whatever. Neither one is more important. So just finding a place that's supportive to the body. If that's seated in meditation, if that's resting back. Let's take a moment. So if you're resting on your back, just noticing the places that you're being supported. How the head and shoulders, the back and pelvis are supported in your reclining position. If you're seated, the same support can be there as you feel the legs drop, the pelvis supported. As we feel those pieces come to the floor, then the spine, the shoulders, the head can be supported as well. So reclining or seated, just taking a few moments to recognize the effects of the practice, and maybe to take just a moment to imagine your forehead smoothing out in both directions, from the center outward, the forehead getting broader. And the eyebrows dropping a little bit. Forehead smooth. Eyebrows dropping. And then you're welcome to stay in your own space and rest here for as long as you need. I will ask the people if you're ready to come up, rolling to your side, releasing your seated meditation. Here to answer questions. That seemed to go fast for me. I may have to do part 2 next week. I had a few other things to work on in this theme. So we'll see if I remember or how things are going next week. But if you're up for it, if this was a good practice for you, we can continue to talk about a little bit more about the hips or this strength for the joints in general. So yeah, have a wonderful day ahead. And please do let me know comments, questions in the chat or otherwise. Oh, let's see, announcements, any announcements? Saturday, I think there's a cardio informational thing. So if you've been wondering about the mindful cardio and what that is, I want to say that's Sunday at 10:15, right after the free half and half with Scott and Colette. Scott will talk about what the mindful cardio, what we've been doing in that class. Several people on here have been doing it. I've been doing it, and really beneficial to keep me on track with the cardio, some kind of cardio every week. So really been enjoying that, and the information that Scott is giving. It's not just getting together and he rides a stationary bike. You can do whatever you need to do. I'd like to do a class on other things you can do if you don't have a bike at home. I've been practicing that at home. So we'll see if I can do that at some point. And then next week, for those of you that have, and anybody is invited, we're going to do a Zoom Tuesday at 10 o'clock or 10:15, I think I said. So if you want to just meet up, I'll have a little bit to talk about, but mostly just to see you all and be able to talk to you a little bit more. Tuesday the 6th at 10:15 is when that's set for. And that's on my website. The link for that will be on my website, ingridschaller.com, to get into that Zoom meeting. So I know, so you get the link. Okay, I think that's it for the next week anyway. I'll see what everybody else is saying here. There's a few messages for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Yeah, all right, good. Thank you, thank you. Had to adapt my left hamstring. Yeah, okay. Mindful cardio rocks, I agree. It's been good. Yeah, the hamstring things are, I agree, are challenging. I'm dealing with that myself.
in my running and other things I'm doing. So best to be very cautious. I'd like to, I'm going to maybe put these in a little video for the Instagram, but using fascia balls and then using above and below the hamstring has really been helping me. So I don't always roll out the hamstring, but sometimes I'm rolling out the calf, the foot, or the glutes. And that seems to help. So if you're having that hamstring insertion stuff, I've had it too, due to probably fascia and maybe over, I don't know, who knows what. So that's what I've been doing. But the foam roller could work too if you don't have one of these little, this is kind of a heavy, bigger size racquetball kind of size. So yeah, hope that helps, Deb, if that works for you.
Sounds good. I'll try that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Patrice. Yeah. How did that go for you? Okay.
Yep, it did.
Good. Awesome. All righty. Have a good day, everybody.
Yes.
Bye, Allison.